the Pokemon World Championships were happening, and I don't really watch the card games very often. I normally just indulge in like the video game side. Although I did collect Pokemon cards when I was younger. I even still sometimes pick up a nice shiny pack every now and then. So I dabble in and now. I'm subscribed to the Pokemon channel. So this story I came across it because I saw it blowing up on Reddit. Basically, this kid, I think he's like 13, 14 years old. He was competing in the Pokemon World Championships and he was destroying people, sweeping them. He was going to make his way to the finals from what I could see. And so he was being interviewed by this person. And this person asked him what his pronouns were. And the kid said, I believe he said, my pronoun is he, him. And he sort of laughed. He sort of giggled because he was nervous. Mm-hmm. It's a kid, right? He's on the Pokemon World Championships. Pokemon's a very, very, very big franchise. There's millions of people that are paying attention to it. And he sort of giggled and said his, right? Mm. This guy, this adult, laughed, sort of took exception to that and said, well, my pronouns are they, them, so don't be a jerk about it. That's how he responds to the kid. Wow. Now, first of all, I don't think you should be bringing that stuff into a Pokemon World Championship. Just play the damn game. You can see it's a boy, okay? If you don't want to use pronouns, just call them by their names. Either way, the kid wasn't being transphobic or being weird towards people that like using alternative pronouns. He kind of giggled because he's a child in front of a camera, in front of people that are watching, and he responded. The tournament progresses, and the person that interviewed him is sitting there mediating the tournament. So you got one card player here, one card player across the table, and then the mediator in the middle, which is the idiot that we're talking about. You can see this guy sort of waving over at the cameras, and something's going on. Like even the players are looking over like something's going funny, and the match just cuts off. Just cuts off completely. The commentators get cut off. The whole thing, the stream goes down or the video ends. I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. So I started reading into it. They disqualified the child. They disqualified him. Pokemon is difficult to play. Okay, I know that a lot of people don't really understand it, just see it as this like kiddie anime, but the card game itself, to compete at the Pokemon World Championship, is difficult. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of investment. That's a lot of skipping school days. And yeah, the payoff is worth it, but it is very hard to get to that level and build a deck of cards that is strong enough to compete with other people. Far be it from me to do it. I can't play the game to that level. This kid invested his time, and because he kind of chuckled at the pronoun question, not because he was being transphobic, not because he was shitting on pronouns, just because he was nervous, like children usually are, they disqualified him from the entire competition, the Pokemon World Championship finals. And this was an adult that took exception to this.
Level game, right? It was happening so fast that it was really, really hard to keep up.
Yes, absolutely. But that's what you're going to see out of both of these players, Makani Tran and Alex Szymanski, both players we've seen plenty of times before. That match, it was still back and forth there for these players throughout that entire game. So that was awesome to see.
That's where the video ends. They just cut it off.
Wow. Because
he might have offended somebody, even though he didn't intend to do that. Like, people make a career out of playing Pokemon cards. They actually make a career. They make money from going to tournaments, they travel the world, and they compete. It's the same as esports. People travel the world to play fighting games and real-time strategy. They dedicate their lives to those things. Those things take a lot of time and investment. Take it from me, somebody that has indulged in esports, and I play Tekken. If you are dedicating your life to that, that's a lot of time that you're sacrificing. That's a lot of money, a lot of opportunities that you're sacrificing. You go to a tournament, somebody asks you your pronouns, which is already a ridiculous thing to do, and then you disqualify them because they kind of chuckle, not taking into account that they're a child. Do you understand how ridiculous that is? Nintendo should fire that person. They should not have anybody on their team that is pushing any of this nonsense and then demonizing a child and costing him opportunities because they felt slightly offended at his answer.
It's because it wasn't the answer that they wanted to hear.
Yeah, from a child. Pathetic. I'll read to you some of the things that the kid wrote in his tweet long, just so we get an understanding of what's going on here. But there was a tweet longer, and people have been defending him. One guy said, from a procedural point of view, I can with 100% certainty say that this was handled poorly. Any non-gameplay related errors should be handled post-match. That tells me the decision to DQ you was made prior to speaking with you. Absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, it's very unprofessional, I think.
Yeah, like, you got a problem with the way he conducted himself when you asked him his pronouns, fine, even though that's ridiculous and you're pathetic. Then you can do that off camera after he's had his match. To cut his match off YouTube completely and then disqualify him over it is absolutely ridiculous. Ridiculous. You enforced your own stupid ideas on this kid who was just trying to play Pokemon. Nobody was trying to attack your ideology. Nobody was doing anything to harm you, and you took offense to it and ruined this kid's his career flourishing potentially. I think when they started speaking to people, their first response was, remember, this isn't an excuse to attack inclusivity and people's identity, which is funny. Again, they love using this word inclusivity, but the minute somebody says something that they don't like, even when they're not actually standing against them and it's a child, they disqualify
But he
him.
didn't even attack anything anyway.
No one attacked anyone here. And you guys are not the inclusive ones. You need to understand that, because people have their own thoughts and feelings, like you yourself. You see the world a certain way. You might go by they, them pronouns. That's fine if you want to do that. But not everybody has to subscribe to that. So if you're being truly inclusive, you'll let us think the way we want to think, and you can think the way you want to think. But you definitely wouldn't impose it on a child in the middle of a Pokemon tournament. So one player asked Shamanske if trans behaviors, it's not trans, the player is called Tran, could have truly come off as offensive. He responded that his tone and speech patterns could have been seen as offensive, but knowing Tran, Shamanske said that he knew the young player didn't mean any harm and had no malicious intent. The fact that they even have to have this conversation is absolutely absurd. Tran wrote, the way I was treated made me feel so upset and treated so unfairly that I was nearly running into the middle of the road and getting ran over. So, I mean, this is spiraled into the kid wanting to off himself, which is, that might be an extreme take, but just think of it from a child's perspective that has invested loads of hours. Like children are already not emotionally...
They've ruined it for him.
Yeah, they're not equipped to deal with situations where they're made to feel uncomfortable in that. They've ruined an opportunity for him. He said, I wanted it to be all over. I was just done with everything. There was no point of anything for me. My dream of winning a regional with my deck I had put so much time and work into was just taken from me. I missed school. I lost hundreds of dollars, traveled across the country for what? Nothing. It was all nothing. But I'm being completely honest with everyone when I say I've never been this upset in my entire life. I hope you feel happy for crushing this kid's dream of winning a regional Pokemon tournament, which, again, it might sound funny to some people, but take it from somebody that has dabbled in esports and playing things competitively. It is extremely difficult and extremely time consuming. These games are not easy to play.
I just think everyone's quick to sort of call people transphobic or any of these words without them actually doing anything that's transphobic. Like somebody who outright says, like, if somebody outright said to you, I'm not going to call you them pronouns because I don't agree with it, or if someone said, I think you're ridiculous, or I don't like trans people, I don't like people with no gender identity, then fair enough. But if people just are not saying anything, but you're just taking their reaction and making it something that you want it to be just so you've got something to say, it's unfair. He hasn't outright said anything harmful or rude to anyone. He's giggled.
He giggled. That's all. That was his crime.
You could have asked him anything and he might have giggled.
The easiest thing to do here is that we're never going to agree. You see the world one way and I see the world one way. The easiest thing to do is just use people's names. Just use their names, especially if you're in, and I'm not saying for everyday people, I'm saying if you're in a Pokemon tournament, if you're in a Street Fighter tournament, if you're in a StarCraft tournament, any of these things, just use their names, because the competitors might not agree with the company's ideology. The company might agree with all these pronouns and whatever, and the players might not. The players have a right to feel however they want to feel, but you don't need to express that on the tournament stage, and neither do the players. So just call them by their names. We can all agree it's fine to call someone by their name, and that's it. Disqualifying a child because you felt slightly pressed about how he responded to your question, a question you shouldn't have even been asking him in the first place, in my opinion, is ridiculous. Nintendo should fire this judge, and they should fire anybody trying to push this stuff, especially on children.